And then that's when I saw I was bleeding. And from that point on, it was just a chaos of a blur of all these things just changing really quickly. Like I remember Matt ran up to the front and was like, my wife is pregnant and she's bleeding. Like, we need help. And they were like, go to labor and delivery. And we had no idea how to get there. So I remember we were like frantically like paced, like trying to get there in the hallway. And by the time we got to check in at labor and delivery, like I just simply couldn't speak from one, the pain, but also just like the fear of something was wrong. Like I just knew it wasn't going to be good. And even at labor and delivery, they were like, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, the baby's going to be okay. And I'm like, I can't, like, I just couldn't converse with them.
Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week, you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristin Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Before we begin today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk to you, just you. If you are a lost mom in any season of this journey, I want you to know that I created something with you in mind. Whether you are newly grieving, trying to conceive again, not sure of what comes next, pregnant after loss, or parenting a living child while still carrying the babies who aren't here, you are welcome. I have a free community called the Doula Life community, and it's a space where lost moms can gather without having to explain themselves. A place where you don't have to shrink your grief, you don't have to tone down your hope, and you definitely don't have to pretend like you're okay. Inside, you'll find other women who understand this journey. There are message boards, free workshops, shared stories, and gentle resources. But more than anything, there is connection. It's completely free and it's growing, and it was built to feel like a soft place to land. If your heart has been craving that kind of space, you can join us at thedoulalife.ca/community. I'd love to see you inside. Today on The Rainbow Connection, I'm joined by Alana Fear, who bravely shares the story of her son, Warren, and the pregnancy that shaped everything she thought she knew about safety and certainty. Alana opens up about experiencing stillbirth after a healthy, uncomplicated pregnancy and the deep, disorienting grief that followed. We also talk about what it means to be pregnant again after loss, how to hold that hope with care, and learning how to exist in this weird in-between. This conversation serves as an invitation to anyone walking the path of pregnancy or motherhood after loss to feel just a little bit less alone. Okay. Now enough from me, let's hear from Alana. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Rainbow Connection. Today, I'm joined with Alana. Hi, Alana. Hi, Kristin. Thanks so much for being here. She's going to share about her son today and a little bit about her journey and where she's at right now. But before we dive in, Alana, why don't you share with our listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. Happy to be here this morning. So my name is Alana Fear. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently 32 years old, and I live in Etobicoke with my husband, Matt, and our little beagle named Walter. I lost my son almost a year from today, and I'm also currently pregnant with my daughter. Well, we would love to hear more about your son. So wherever you feel comfortable sharing, we would love to hear more. Okay. Yeah. So, it kind of all starts back in early-ish 2024. Or maybe even before then. My husband, Matt, and I, we got married. We just celebrated our 2-year wedding anniversary a couple days ago. We got married in September 2023, and we knew sort of our next plan and stage was to try for a baby. But I was on some medication at the time that I had been slowly sort of like weaning off over the course of probably like 2 years at that point, with the plans and hopes to be pregnant. And sort of when that time frame aligned, it was like spring of 2024 when I was sort of all cleared from that medication to be able to safely conceive. And I feel like we were very like cautiously optimistic entering that journey, just knowing from our peers and our friends, and of course, even from like the doctor, coming off of like birth control as well, like how the time frame can take some time. But we were really pleasantly surprised, and we felt super, super lucky and super, super privileged that we actually got pregnant right away on our first month of trying, which was so wonderful. We were so happy. It was like a shock in the best way possible. Even though it was super planned, we just were so anticipating a different journey ahead. So we're so happy. We're so, so happy at that time. And, you know, even just going through all of those like early appointments, the blood work, the NIPT, first ultrasounds, I still think we had sort of like a cautiously optimistic perspective. Again, just sort of knowing that everything is so fragile, nothing is necessarily guaranteed. But, you know, every milestone that we kind of hit, it was just like relief and excitement and so much joy. We were able to, you know, get through our first trimester very successfully. We ended up finding out we were having a baby boy, which was super exciting. You know, super excited either way, but it was just a nice way to have some more information about our baby. And then even at that time, we were very lucky to be able to buy a house, which is something we had wanted to do already, but everything kind of aligned at a really nice time. Just like with the housing market and the timing of his arrival. So that was perfect. We were like, we bought this house for our baby. We're entering like this new stage. We're newlyweds.
We're grown-ups, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're feeling like adults. Life is about to change. We had a very simple life before with like us and our dog in our little condo. And everything just seems super, super, super perfect. I know that's like a hot button word because nothing is perfect. And definitely like my life in many ways was not perfect, but it genuinely kind of just felt like a movie or like a storybook of like everything we've planned for is just sort of working out, despite our worries and sort of caution. And everything was really great with the pregnancy, I have to say. We had chosen to do the midwife route, which I was super thrilled about. I loved my experience doing that and the more like intimate, I guess, time and attention that we were able to get, especially as like I'm a first time pregnant person. This is our first baby. We had so many questions and so many things to worry about. They were very, very, very kind to us. And yeah, no issues, no challenges. They actually even advised against doing the NIPT, because they were like, you're both healthy. There's no like family history. Save the money, save it for your kids' like college tuition. But we were so like anxious, I think, at the time. We were like, whatever information we can get, let's do it. So yeah, all is to say, very healthy pregnancy. No issues, no indication that things could have gone wrong. Even then, when we did the 20-week anatomy scan, even then I remember going into it feeling so worried, but being constantly reassured, like there's no reason to be worried. If you look at the evidence, everything should be okay. And yeah, it was a good scan. Everything seemed to be good. He was measuring really well. No issues there. They also were able to do at that time, I guess, a transvaginal ultrasound as well to check my cervix, which I don't think they normally do, but for whatever reason, they were kind of just checking everything. And that also came out really good. And we were actually set to go to Europe for our baby moon a couple weeks later. And we were like, felt all the confidence from like our care providers of like, there's no issues. Go enjoy your time. The flight time will be okay. Just
People
make
travel
sure.
all the time pregnant. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All the time. We traveled in the first trimester and like that was fine. But second trimester now, I'm kind of, bigger, maybe a little bit slower. I just didn't think about it because people, like you said, people travel all the time.
Like a baby moon is a totally normal thing. And you guys were having this, picture perfect pregnancy. Why not go to Europe, right? Like let's ride this beautiful time in our lives. It makes sense.
Exactly. That was our thoughts right on the nose. And then we had celebrated my birthday in October. And then 2 days after that, I'd gone to work, got to the office. So super regular day for me. I work in downtown Toronto. I commuted home. I was standing on the subway, super normal. Was wearing like high-heeled boots, I remember. And I was like, I feel great. Like everything's wonderful. My birthday was 2 days ago. We're flying 2 days from now. Everything was wonderful. When I got home, it was like 5:30 in the evening. I remember I was watching Love is Blind. I was, having the time of my life, watching that in like my robe, waiting for my husband, Matt, who was working from home. I was waiting for him to finish up so we could have dinner. And I just got like this intense like pain in my abdomen. And I remember it was like an audible pain. Like I kind of went, oof, like, what was that? But I kind of was like, okay, didn't really think anything of it at that point. And then it started to happen again and again. And then at that point, Matt and I were kind of like, Dr. Google, I'm having stomach pains. I was like 22 and a half weeks pregnant at this point. Like, what is this? And we kind of thought it was like growing pains of like your muscles kind of like expanding. That's what came up. And we thought, that's probably what it is. And I hadn't eaten dinner yet. So I thought maybe let me just eat and that will make me feel better. But I was standing at the stove, I remember, and I couldn't stand up straight. Like I remember I like physically couldn't stand in front of the stove to heat the food. And I was like, you have to do this. I just need to sit down. And then that's kind of when I was like starting to panic a little bit. So I said, go walk the dog. Are your parents still around to come over to just like watch our dog for a bit, not knowing what was going to happen or how long we'd be gone? And I'm like, let's just call the midwife's emergency number. And even then, it's like a very haunting conversation for me with what the midwife had said at the time. She was so not concerned, so unbothered. She was like, did you eat something? And I was like, I had a catered lunch at work. So it was outside food. And she's like, maybe you have like just something from your stomach, like digestion.
Like trapped gas, trapped gas is super common, or round ligament pain, or
exactly.
There's so many things that you can convince yourself that it could be, right?
Yes. And having, no context of what I would find out as later labor, I was like, you're right. Like I maybe ate a weird piece of chicken, or like, this is what round ligament sort of like growing pains are. And she was like, I'm pulling up your anatomy scan. Like your cervix looks good. There's no sign of infection. Like you should probably drink some more water. Like, can you take a hot shower? And I remember I was like, I can't stand to take a shower. And she was like, we'll take a hot bath. And I was like, okay, maybe
at
it's
any
not.
point was she like why don't we get you to come in and we'll check you? Or was she?
No. That's the thing too. Even, she literally said, it's so haunting. She was like, I'm more concerned. It's more likely that you have appendicitis than early labor. I'm not concerned about early labor. It's probably something unrelated to the pregnancy. And I was like, crap. Like I'm pregnant and I'm about to travel. Also, appendicitis is scary. It can also, affect the baby. I'm like thinking I like have appendicitis. And even like the pain, I was on the phone with her. So, I'm doing my best to kind of compose myself. And she was like, have you been having the pain while you've been talking to me? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, well, I haven't heard in your voice the pain, so it can't be that bad. And I was like, well, I'm holding it together because I'm trying to be like cordial on the phone. I'm not like letting myself scream. And she was still so unworried. And I said like, well, we're going on a trip in 2 days. Like, if the pain is still here, like, should I go to labor and delivery or should I go to the emergency room? And she said, go to the emergency room because they can outrule that it's not appendicitis. And if they think it's something related to the baby, they'll direct you to labor and delivery. And yeah, it's tough for me because for a long time I thought, well, what if we actually did go straight to labor and delivery? What would have happened? Because that's not what we did. We went to the emergency room.
Did you go that night or did you guys wait? Did you have a bath? Like, were you following her instructions and it wasn't working or?
I kind of was like, when I hung up, like, I still was like, something's not right. But I was still so trusting in what she said. And it was getting late in the evening. And I was kind of like, if we're going to go, let's go. So we just hung up the phone and we're like, let's just go to the emergency room. And it was kind of like a mad dash out the door, I have to say. Like, I was still in quite a bit of pain, but I barely had time. Like, I took out my contacts from the day. I didn't bring my purse. I brought like my card holder, no hair tie, like literally nothing really. And we'd gone to the emergency room. And we lived in Toronto at the time. So emergency rooms in general are pretty crazy. Toronto specifically, it can be very scary and just, very difficult to just like sit in and witness, people that are sick. And, they're very busy. I don't blame them at the hospital. But like when you get there, you literally take a number from a machine, like when you're at the deli. Like it's one of those red ticket numbers. And that's your number to get triaged. You don't get triaged anytime soon. It's your number to wait to speak to somebody to even tell them why you're here. So we waited in that emergency room for almost an hour and a half to just see anyone to say why we're here. And I was definitely having like a lot of intense pains. And I went to use the bathroom to pee. And then that's when I saw I was bleeding. And from that point on, it was just a chaos of a blur of all these things just changing really quickly. Like I remember Matt ran up to the front and was like, my wife is pregnant and she's bleeding. Like, we need help. And they were like, go to labor and delivery. And we had no idea how to get there. So I remember we were like frantically like paced, like trying to get there in the hallway. And by the time we got to check in at labor and delivery, like I just simply couldn't speak. From one, the pain, but also just like the fear of I like something was wrong. Like I just knew it wasn't going to be good. And even at labor and delivery, they were like, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, the baby's going to be okay. And I'm like, I can't, like, I just couldn't converse with them. And they were like, did you call your doctor? Did you call your midwife? And I'm like, I did, but like before, and like they told, like we're coming from the emergency room, and then I felt so silly because they're like, why didn't you come to labor and delivery? Like, you're supposed to come to labor and delivery. And I'm like, we just wasted almost 2 hours sitting there for nothing. So So then it was just like, I was just crying. It was like a constant like flow of tears at this point and inability to speak. They were able to get me into a room and asked me to take like a urine sample, which I think they do probably for everybody once they go into labor and delivery for whatever reason. And the cup was just like full of blood. And the nurse was like, maybe you have a bladder infection and that's where the blood is coming from. And I'm like, I know, like, it's definitely a different hole. Like, no.
It's just so frustrating that like all these people, it's almost like they're gaslighting you to be like, this isn't, like, can we just say what this might actually be? And like, this is a concern. Yeah.
Like that's exactly how, at the time, it's sort of like, I knew something was wrong and it wasn't going to be good, but you're so wanting to trust and like kind of go off a little shred of hope of like, maybe, but I'm like, no, I remember, I think I laughed at her because I was like, no, like, that's blood from a different place.
Like, I'm a 30-year-old woman. I know my anatomy. I know where the blood's coming from.
Yeah. And like, it was a red cup, like not, I've had bladder infections before and it's definitely never been that amount of blood. Like I know what's going on. And then immediately they went in to do like a Doppler check to check the baby's heartbeat. And I'm like in writhing pain at this point. Like just being touched is very difficult. But they were able to find the baby's heartbeat. And even then, I remember they kind of gave me a look about like, you should be relieved. Like, oh, we found the baby's heartbeat. Like you should feel good. But like I wasn't able to speak because I'm kind of like screaming and crying in pain. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But like, obviously something's not right. And then my midwife got there and her and the OB together were kind of like, we need to do the vaginal cervical check. And I'm getting very irritable at this point. I remember I was like, she was trying to touch my stomach and I was like, please, like, just don't touch me. And she was like, it hurts that bad. You don't want to be touched. And I'm like, yeah, it does. I've been saying I'm in like terrible pain. So in between, I guess, and what we now know was a contraction, they were able to do the cervical vaginal check. And then that's when they like definitively said, I'm so sorry, like you're in labor. The baby's water sac is coming out of your cervix. Like you will deliver the baby soon. And there's a very low chance that he will survive. And if he does, it doesn't look very strong. And we typically don't resuscitate. And they kind of just went into everything right away and said, like, you can talk to, I can't remember the right doctor's name, but like a specialized pediatrician, basically, if you want to hear more about what that would look like and why we don't recommend resuscitation. And even still, I'm in so much pain now, emotional pain. I just can't speak. I'm just, crying, kind of screaming, to be honest. And I remember looking at Matt and he was just devastated and crying. And he said, like, what are we going to do? And I'm in so much pain. I remember I just said, I need something for pain. Like I wasn't even really present in that conversation. And then, from there, things moved even faster. They like shot me with some morphine, which didn't do much at the time. Wheeled me in to admit me to a room. And then they were kind of like, you need to tell us right now if you want an epidural, because your window is kind of not going to be much longer. And then as soon as I got that epidural, everything kind of like my whole mood just like shifted because I could actually like
process what was happening.
Yeah. Process and like properly understand and like recall information. I just was so not myself. Yes. Like respond, communicate.
I'm so sorry that was just told to you while you're like, I'm busy right now. Like, yeah, like I'm not absorbing this at all. Like it really is an out of body experience when you're in labor. It's not a time to be having a life or death serious conversation, right?
Yeah. And like the shock of it all too. I think like, yeah, for a while I like look back and I'm like, oh, how did I react? Like you think you're going to react in a certain way in certain high stress situations, but you also just don't know how you respond to something that's so shocking. And sometimes it's in ways that you don't anticipate. Because I feel like it really hit me later when I was able to like reshift from the physical pain. Then the emotional aspect like flooded once my body was sort of able to like take a little bit of rest from that experience. And even just like through the epidural and the contractions, I remember they were like deep breathing, like try and like do all these things. And I was like, I didn't get that far in the book. You know, you're reading pregnancy books, trying to understand all these things. And I was like, it's like, I didn't get to that chapter. Like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like they're trying to tell me all these techniques. And I'm like, I am not ready yet.
While we take a quick break, I want to introduce you to The Haven, my signature support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. This is not just a course. The Haven is a trauma-informed community program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, an experienced doula and fellow lost mom, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Enrollment inside The Haven is now open, and support is available to walk with you throughout your entire pregnancy. From the moment you see those 2 pink lines, all the way until your baby is tucked safely into your arms. If you've been longing for a place to feel safe, feel seen, and be supported throughout your pregnancy, then The Haven was made for you. You can learn more at thedoulalife.ca/haven. Inside The Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way.
So by this time now, it's probably like, I don't know, like 11 at night. And the doctor had said, we're just going to let your body continue to labor and see what happens without intervention. Try to rest, like the medication will make you sleep. And then we will just keep assessing and keep waiting to see. So that's what we did. I managed to sleep a little bit just from, I think, the drugs and the medication, like they said. And then by the morning, they had switched OBs in the ward, and the new OB, he had such a different approach. He had basically said, like, if he was here the night before, he would have just like broken my water and like gotten like sped this up and essentially got it over with, was the impression that I felt like he was saying. So he was quite not adamant, but he was recommending like labor hasn't super progressed. He's still coming out in the amniotic sac, but your water hasn't broken and he's being really squished. So he recommended we just break your water to speed the process up. And that, it just made it so much even more real, because I'm still in shock and not really quite comprehending what's going to happen. And I remember Matt and I talked about it, and it was just a horrible decision to make, because I knew like he was still Oren was still like fighting and his heart was still going really strong, but obviously breaking his water and pushing the labor forward is just speeding up the inevitable at that point.
Yeah, you're making a choice for him to come at that point, right?
Yes. And you're in labor and delivery, so it's typically a joyous place. And I just remember even like through that night hearing women, or maybe just one woman, I'm not sure, but like someone deliver their baby and hearing the baby cry and feeling so just, envious. And just angry because I knew that wouldn't be the outcome that we had. So, and then making that decision, I'm sure they heard me, like all the way to reception. Everyone heard me just cry. Screaming is the best way I can describe what was happening when we decided, okay, let's do that. And then it was just like quickly after that, at 10:15 on October 24th, he was born, our son Warren. And I knew like as soon as he came out, he wouldn't be with us anymore. And it just was so traumatic. I think, I'm sorry. It's okay. Because he had come out, and they were checking like his vitals, and Matt was cutting his umbilical cord, and they said like there's no heartbeat. And again, I just remember screaming. Even from the moment I felt him come out, I remember just screaming no, like over and over, because just knowing that was the end. And I think that went on for like, it feels like a really long time. I was just screaming, and there were just like so many people around me, putting like ice on your chest and your breast so that like your milk doesn't start to come in. And then just all of a sudden it was quiet. I feel like everybody was just gone. And then we got to spend our time with him, and then basically try to come to terms with what had happened, in what felt like such a short time frame. And yeah, it was just it's so surreal even now to think about, because it feels like just yesterday, but also a really long time ago. And we had to make all those decisions. Yeah, what was his name going to be for the paperwork? Do we want to do cremation? Do we want to do burial? Would we do it like an actual service? Would we do something private? We had like the lactation consultant come in, the social worker come in, I had a psychiatrist come in. It just was a little bit of a chaos period at that point. And then ultimately just, leaving the hospital room. That was like second to like the birthing process of like, that was the hardest part of this all. Just having to put him down at one point and then leave that room. Ooh, that was the most difficult walk I think I've ever and hopefully will ever do.
Did you guys get to spend much time with him, or what was that experience like?
Oh, it's so hard. I've tried to give myself some forgiveness and grace, because at the time I didn't want to stay long. And then of course, immediately after I left, I was so mad that we didn't stay longer. That was, if he was born at like 10:15, by probably like 6:30 in the evening, I wanted to go home. We were told we could stay the night. And I kind of just felt, it's hard because I feel so different now. I wish I would have stayed. I wish I would have stayed longer. It wasn't enough time. But I think it's that shock piece of now I'm like, how could I have reacted like that? But at the time, it felt like I just wanted to get out of there. I just physically wanted to be away from this hospital and the experience.
Yeah, well, and your house is like your safe place, right? Of course, you would want to be like in your own space, in your own bed, without the nurses coming in nonstop. It makes sense. And I don't know if there's any woman that I've ever spoken with who's lost their baby that could ever say they spent enough time. Like even with us, we spend a day with Vienna, and I'm always like, why did we only spend a day? Like it's not enough. It's never enough. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it feels for sure. Not enough
Mm-hmm.
time, not enough pictures, not enough staring at him, not enough time.
Mm-hmm. Could never be enough. Yeah. So what was life kind of, when you did go home, what did life kind of look like for you and your husband after that? Like what did the days, weeks, months, what did that kind of look like for you?
So tough. And honestly, a blip in my memory at this point because it's such a dark time, and just not being present and just being in like what I would describe as like, severe depression. Obviously we didn't go on our trip. And we were supposed to move into our new home like 2 weeks later. So we had to move. And I think just, I'm so grateful for Matt because he really just took care of me, but also just life. Like I was just so checked out of every responsibility and every task that we had to do, move related, trip related, like even corresponding with my work. Like he did all of that. And it was just survival, honestly. Just every day was sort of the same. I forced myself to try to, get out for a walk with my dog. We were very, very, very fortunate with our sort of support system. So many people sent us like Uber Eats gift cards. So we didn't have to like worry about food for a really long time. People brought us food. But it was dark. Like it was, and it really honestly is truly hard for me to remember because I feel like my brain was just not functioning. And like sleep was my favorite part of the day because I could just take a mental break.
I totally get it. Yeah. It is such a blur, right? How could it not be? What was it like for Matt, right? What was it like for him? Like, did he have to go back to work? I know that you're supposed to go away. Like, it's just like a total shift in your life. Obviously, you moved and during the midst of that.
Yeah.
What were things like for him?
I think really, really harder than he probably let on, to be honest. Like, I know he was very much in that immediate mode of like supporting me first and foremost, which I honestly can't say and emphasize enough. Like, I could not have gone through this without having such a strong partner to rely on for just the daily things of life, making sure you're eating and like you're moving and you're getting up, but just the care and emotional support. But he luckily was able to be off of work for some time. And he was just, by my side. We would just have the same conversation, honestly, over and over again, which at that point, the most difficult part for us was why. Because we were like, we had felt like we were lulled into this sense of safety the whole pregnancy because everything was fine. Everything was picture perfect. There was no issues. We were low risk. And it felt so just out of nowhere and almost senseless because when we got the results, it was like, nothing was wrong with you. Nothing was wrong with Warren. So we're like, well, then why did this happen if everything was fine? So we both really, really struggled with that. And it was just, we had a lot of the same conversations to ourselves. We don't know. There's nothing we could have done. A lot of that. And just leaning on each other, honestly, just for the emotional support.
Well, obviously, you guys ultimately made that decision to, try again. What did like that road look like? And how did you guys, come to a place where you felt you were I'm doing quotations for those who aren't watching me, but ready to kind of embark that, especially knowing that with Warren, there was nothing that, exactly stood out. What did that look like for you making that decision?
Yeah, no, I love that you preface it like that. I know you often will post about that. I always appreciate that because it's the question everyone sort of in your support wants to ask you of how did you know you're ready? Or when do you think you'll feel ready? And it's sort of like a farce because you don't. Because we knew the journey ahead would be very, very, very difficult emotionally and psychologically. And we kind of went in with the perspective of this is going to be hard no matter when it happens again. If it's 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, heck, even 10, whenever it is, the next pregnancy after this is going to be extremely challenging mentally. And it was sort of if it's going to be hard, not let's get it over with quicker, but why draw out something?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say because that was my frame of thinking too. It's it's already hard, so let's just do all the hard at once. Let's just continue this ship of hardness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's something only folks in the community may understand because it's, there's so much pressure to have hope for the future of another baby. And luckily no one has said it directly to us of you can try again, but you put that pressure on yourself, even if it's not said to you.
And then if you wait to someone will always make a comment, whether you're waiting too short or you're waiting too long, someone will say oh, don't you think you want to be spend more time getting ready? And then other people will say oh, when are you going to have another baby? When are you going to try again? There's really no right answer. And it's true. You'll never really be ready. It's going to be hard no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember I had a conversation with a friend in the postpartum months because we were advised to wait, give my body 3 months before trying to conceive again. And we definitely used those full 3 months to talk about it with each other and individually reflect on it. And I remember I was talking about Warren and just the process with a friend who had come to visit. And she just changed I was already thinking it, but she kind of solidified my perspective of babies in life are such a miracle. If it's something that you want and is important, don't stop yourself from being able to try and give yourselves the chance to have that miracle. And I thought oh my gosh, she's right, because that's the thing too. Even going back to conceiving Warren, just because we decide we want to try for another baby doesn't mean it's going to happen right away.
Totally.
And if we're going to start that journey, let's start that journey because you just don't know how long it will take. So that's kind of what led us to confirm, okay, let's wait our 3 months and then we're open and I guess, quote unquote, ready to try again.
So what was that like? You're obviously sitting here 24 weeks pregnant. Was that process kind of the same as when you got pregnant with Warren? Obviously very different now, very different circumstances. But what did that look like for you?
Ooh, well, I guess, yeah. At the time, when I submitted, I was 24 weeks. I'm almost 33 weeks pregnant now.
Yeah,
yes.
that's true.
Yeah,
we are further along for sure.
Time has gone on, but it was, I think, very joyous. It was a sense to look forward to the future. At that time, I wasn't really thinking. I knew, again, knowing it would be hard, I wasn't really focused on that. There was still so much joy around that period of life. I had started to take my prenatals again. It was giving me a sense of self-care of, well, I wasn't eating before. I definitely need to make sure I'm eating now. I need to make sure I'm getting enough nutrition. I need to make sure I'm healthy. This is so exciting, the possibility of this happening. And we had lost Warren in October. He was originally due in February. And we had planned to go on a trip to sort of celebrate his original due date. And we went to Norway, which was really fun and really special. And it was on that trip that we got pregnant with our daughter. So when we came back, we had found out, which was really, I think it's just really special to us.
So special.
I just feel like it's sort of like the connection that they'll have to each other. So it was a really honestly joyous, like happy, exciting time.
How has like your pregnancy been, since finding out? Are you with the same care providers? Are they kind of doing things any differently this time? Like, what does that look? Especially because we, like you said, we didn't get any answers about Warren. So how has that looked for you?
Yeah, that's sort of where the excitement and joy started to get clouded over by fear and anxiety right when we saw the pregnancy test. So we decided to go through the OB route and through, that sort of like 3-month postpartum time when we asked all the questions about, how would this affect future pregnancies? What does that look like? We were quite shocked to learn that we wouldn't be considered high risk going forward. I'm still shocked by that just because they said you have to have had 2 losses to have that, I guess, like term deemed for you. But luckily enough, we were still able to see a high risk OB for which has given huge peace of mind. But it's been just, constant monitoring because we didn't know why that happened. So I've been having like much more frequent ultrasounds than I would have with Warren or just quote unquote normal average pregnancy. And they were still wanting to monitor my cervix because even though they had told me it's very unlikely that it was cervix related, obviously we don't want to be too sure. So they were checking just in case. So I had like transvaginal ultrasounds up until like my 3rd trimester. So really just like a month ago. And kind of now that I've passed that point, they've been able to give more information about why that maybe happened with Warren, which is they're thinking it was like a placental abruption. But they weren't sure at the time whether that was like caused by an infection because my cervix opened, if I had just an undetected infection, or if my placenta was just, I don't know, like a quote unquote bad placenta, despite having it looked good in the anatomy scan. So in a way, it's also given me more peace now, having passed those points in this pregnancy, because I really, really, really struggled mentally up until knowing that I had done something wrong. Because you try to fill in the blanks when there's no medical explanation. I'm thinking I shouldn't have been standing. I shouldn't have been wearing heeled boots. I shouldn't have been doing therapy. I should have been relaxing. Like I really did blame myself for a long time, having not known why this happened. So I've gotten a lot of peace from this pregnancy, knowing more information about what maybe happened with Warren.
And it's so common. It sucks, but so common to blame yourself because you're this baby's mom and you're the home, and there's so much like pressure on you to be like, this beacon of safety.
Yeah.
But it's true. Sometimes these things, like, it's so horrible, but there really was nothing you could have done, or there was nothing that you did do. And it's such a hard, like, I'm trying not to swear, but it's like a mind, everyone knows what I'm saying, like a mind fuck, trying to not feel guilty, right? And be able to kind of let that go. It really is such a journey. What has been, the most supportive thing in this pregnancy? Obviously, because it does come with a story this time, and it does come with fears.
Yeah.
Like, what has been the most supportive things for you with this pregnancy?
I think most of all, honestly, just my husband. Like going through the grief process, but now our second pregnancy process, I just draw so much strength from being able to have him to go to at any point. Again, if it's a repeated conversation, if he comes home and I'm like crying about something, just having that support, honestly, and kind of knowing the spectrum from other people and other stories where it can be so much more challenging when you maybe don't have that. I just have so much gratitude and appreciation. Like, I don't even know if I would want to have become a parent in this world had I not been married to my husband specifically. And yeah, having to try again for another baby if I didn't have such a strong support after that experience. So I just have deep love and appreciation for him first. And then honestly, support groups. I'm a big support group attendee, and I found them very, very helpful. They were brought to me in the hospital when we had Warren from a social worker, and I had been attending second trimester loss groups. And then both Matt and I were attending them. And then we were both attending the Trying to Conceive After Loss group. And then we kind of like graduated to the pregnancy after loss support groups that we've been attending. And I've not missed a session, maybe one since Warren's passing, which is like almost a year. I've gone like every other week because I just find the sense of community so impactful to hear other people's stories, but also to share about mine and what maybe has triggered me that week. So I'm very, very grateful that those exist and that people are comfortable enough and brave enough to like show up and share about what they're going through.
I'm so glad you have that. It is so important. Like, I obviously talk about this nonstop, how, you're not supposed to do this alone. It's literally impossible to do this alone. Like you said, you never would have done it without your partner and having an amazing partner, but also, being surrounded by other people who can see you and understand the complexities and the weight of what this actually is like. And I'm just so obviously thrilled to know that you have that, because it really is such a game changer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pause this for a second.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you felt, you wanted to touch on that felt really important to you, either with Warren or with your grief or with this pregnancy?
I don't know how we could exactly get into it, but I think just sometimes it makes it a lot harder when you're feeling isolated from like society, I guess, like the quietness that comes with such a unique grief of people just not knowing what to do or say. And then that kind of leaves you further pained. I don't know like how much or if we can, but it's just such a theme I've just noticed, whether it was with Warren, like losing him, or even with this pregnancy, the sensitivity in a good way, but sometimes it's like sensitivity in a negative way that kind of can be difficult.
I could ask you like what, throughout this journey, of being pregnant with Warren, of, losing Warren and being pregnant again, what are some of like, what has been like your biggest lesson so far in this or like biggest observation so far? Yeah. We can kind of go into it that way if you want.
That sounds good.
Because it is really important, and it kind of ties along into why we need support groups in that community, right? Because like the rest of the world doesn't get it. So why don't I ask that?
Sure.
Does that sound good? Okay.
That sounds great.
Alana, I would really be interested to hear, with your journey of being pregnant with Warren and then losing Warren and then obviously grieving and then making the, courageous decision to do this all over again. What kind of like, what has been, the biggest lesson or like thing that you've noticed throughout all of this that, what have you uncovered throughout this journey that, what have you learned from this journey?
Many things. I think with pregnancy, trying to conceive, birth, labor, sort of that big umbrella topic. Just how nuanced, honestly, it really is with everyone's unique story, which I think is why I'm so drawn to support groups. Like, no two stories really are the same. Even if somebody were to lose their child at the same exact like gestation, it's going to be a different circumstance. It also is probably going to be a different context. Maybe, it's like also their first baby. Maybe it was through IVF. Maybe it was their third baby. Like, there's just so many layers, I think, that make
it's so individual, right?
So individual, which I think is important. We need to hear all of those stories. In general, though, because they are ones that are not spoken up about as much, for whatever reason. They are private topics, and that makes sense why, people may not want to talk about them. But I think it's been difficult with this type of loss. You sometimes don't get the same reception to your grief that you may with other forms of loss, because it can be so sensitive, which I feel like I've grown a lot to understand. Like, people aren't going to address me or give condolences a certain way they may if this were, the loss of like a peer or someone older or whoever. And that's been tough, because I think sometimes it can be even more isolating, because it's your whole world. There's like it's such a tragedy. It's such a unique type of loss, just like, of course, every loss is like outside of this pregnancy and infant loss umbrella. But I find it's just been hard to give people grace, which I feel like now I can do it. At the time when you're in your throes of grief and you're feeling like people aren't acknowledging the pain for fear of being awkward, for fear of making you more upset, like, that's been tough. I think just overall, people also making assumptions about maybe what happened in your loss. I know I've had some friends and peers that are parents themselves, moms and dads, that were shocked to hear that we held our son and we spent time with him, which is so hard, because I feel like, of course you would. Like, if you were in that situation, you would know that that's all you're gonna want to do.
Well, it's your baby.
It's your it's your baby, and like, he, that's my firstborn child. Like, I got to see what a person looks like made from my husband and I. Like, he had my son, he had Matt's like dimple on his chin. He had my lips. Like, he had a second toe that was longer than his first, like his grandfather. Like, of course, like, it's a bit, you're gonna want to spend time with your baby. So it's all to say, it's taken me some time to give people the grace of, not understanding the depths and breadth of these types of losses. And it's been difficult to know that it just, you kind of have to know who and where to go to get that support. And sometimes, it's in places you may not anticipate, because it may not be people you think would understand, like other parents. So that's been a big sort of perspective shift that I've had.
Yeah, huge. What's been like the best way that people have shown up for you and have like been able to help you carry this load?
Yeah. And I want to give so much credit to our support system for those people, because just as I said with my husband and the support groups, without these people, our friends and our family, again, the desire and strength to get through, or continue to get through the grief, and the hope to try for another baby, it would not be possible. I think, the practical things like food showing up for us. But the thing I honestly value a lot, I know I've said it probably a lot already, but just like my friends allowing me open space to talk endlessly as much as I want about Warren, about the pregnancy, but also about my current pregnancy and my worries. Because I have friends on a spectrum of friends that are moms, friends that are pregnant, friends that don't have any kids at the moment. And they've all been able to just give me undivided time and attention and not try to assume how I'm feeling. They just simply want to listen. And I can't even tell you how grateful I am, because I feel like being able to get it out to a kind ear and open heart is so healing. And I'm just very grateful that I have people that are just willing to listen and spend all the time that they can hearing me talk about both of my babies.
Of course. I always like to compare it to like, this is a monumental, transformative time of your life. And like, there's not many other transformative or like pivotal times of your life that you keep secret, right? This was your birth, and this was your baby, and this is your other baby. And this holds so much, and it deserves to be talked about. You deserve to talk about it because this is your life, right? So I'm so glad that, you've been given that space with those people, because it really is, it makes a huge difference. How do you guys keep, Warren a part of your family now, or, his story or his memory a part of your life right now?
We both were able to get, not matching, I guess, like coordinating tattoos of Warren, or of his name. So I have his name on my arm, and then Matt has his initials, kind of on his shoulder. And I really honestly think that's super special, because I wouldn't say I'm like I have one other small tattoo that's like very discreet. But my husband is just like not a tattoo person at all. Like he would not have a tattoo would this circumstance not happen. But I think it's so sweet that like we can have that just sort of like, literally like permanent peace and reminder of him with us at all times. And we just try to talk about him as much as we can. We have sort of like a mini altar set up with like his urn, and like a candle and like a small stuffed animal that we had paired with him. So when we did his cremation, we gave him one, and then we kept one so that we both have like a matching one. And just, the conversation piece I feel like is huge. Like just talking about him, especially with this pregnancy. Because as much as like, you try to treat the pregnancy as a different pregnancy, I only have one other one to compare it to. So I'm kind of just, it's a natural thing to talk about, oh, well, with Warren, it was like this, or he used to kick me like this, or will she look like Warren? Or we just try to bring him up in conversation as much as possible, not only to ourselves, but to others as well, if they ask me about the current pregnancy and stuff like that. And then his 1 year passing and I guess birthday is coming up in less than a month now. So we don't know exactly what we want to do, but I think we want to do some sort of like, I don't know, cake and candle. And I do want to write him like a letter. And I hope I can keep that tradition every year. But it's still sort of like a work in progress as well, of like how we continue to, because I do really want to commit to like keeping his memory alive and keeping his name just in our daily or like frequent conversations.
I love that. Yeah, he must come up all the time now, because it's hard not to be thinking about him when you're literally in his exact scenario, right? Like not exactly, but you are pregnant again. And obviously he is the only pregnancy that you had. So he would come up a lot naturally. So I love that for you, because it's probably like a bit of and or, right? It's like super sweet that you get to think about him, but then there's also like that or that and part, right? Yeah. Well, I'm so appreciative of you being here today. I'm so honored to, hear Warren's story and hear your story. And I speak on behalf of everyone listening that we're all going to be thinking about you, as you approach these last few weeks. And we'll have to have you come back on and share another story. And we're going to be thinking about you so much. And we're so appreciative of you sharing a piece of your heart with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me and just for all the work that you do. I can't tell you the relief and comfort that has come to me since discovering your pages and your podcast, because I think, it's something, there's a gap in the support that people need. And this is a huge sense of community. And I'm really grateful, as I'm sure everyone else is, to have this space. So thank you.
I love hearing that. So thank you for your kind words. If this episode resonated with you, would you mind sharing it with another mother who might need to hear it? Sometimes the smallest act, like sending an episode to a friend or sharing it in your stories, can remind someone they're not alone in their grief or their hope. If you do share, please tag at the Rainbow Connection podcast so we can continue to spread these stories together. Thank you again for tuning in today. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.